When you consider NFL legends and players who defined an era, you probably think of Montana, Brady, and Peyton. Yet before the days of Mahomes launching rockets on the run, there was a quarterback who made such magic seem routine. His name? John Elway. With a cannon for an arm, legs strong enough to extend plays like a magician, and all the flair for drama, Elway epitomized the prototype of the modern QB long before it was ever fashionable. And then came trophies, memorable comebacks, and leading a team from perennial underdogs to two-time Super Bowl champions within a couple of years, making him immortal. But let's be real for a second. On the hotness scale, how hot was he? Was the hype legit or just nostalgia talking? Because when you look at the whole package, Elway might just be one of the most complete quarterbacks to ever play the game. So let's settle it once and for all. Just how good was John Elway? He was introduced to a football legend and was never in the shadow of a football legend, being such a kid with a golden arm. Born in Washington State in 1960, Elway was raised in a playbook. His father, Jack Elway, was a football coach who moved the family around for his coaching jobs. So John really was studying X's and O's before most kids learn cursive. But Elway wasn't just a football genius. At Granada Hills High School in California, he lit up the football and the diamond. In fact, drafted him in 1981, and we're not talking about some late rounds. He really was that good. Yet, he was a football player and even went to play for Stanford, which made him not so great at national titles, but did rewrite the school's passing records. Although Elway went to a team that never realized the dream of going to a bowl game, his brilliance, however, could not be denied, as Elway had thrown for 9,000 yards and 77 touchdowns, finishing second in the Heisman voting in 1982. The scouts were salivating. Size, arm, IQ, the works. And with that baseball leverage, he pretty much owned the NFL before he took a single pro snap. The stage was truly set. Not only was Elway the best QB in the country, but he was one of the most hyped prospects in all of football history. NFL career beginnings. John Elway's NFL journey didn't just begin, it erupted. The 1983 NFL Draft, widely considered the greatest QB class of all time, Elway was the crown jewel. The Baltimore Colts took him first overall, but there was just one problem. He didn't want to play there. Elway famously leveraged his baseball contract with the Yankees, threatening to play in the MLB instead of suiting up for a team he felt was dysfunctional and directionless. It was bold, it was controversial, and it worked. Just days later, the Colts traded him to the Denver Broncos, where he'd spent his entire 16-year career. Elway's early seasons in Denver were a roller coaster. His raw talent was undeniable. He had a bazooka for an arm and the athleticism to escape any pocket, but consistency took time. In his first few years, he showed flashes of brilliance mixed with growing pains. Still, he led Denver to the playoffs by year 3 and became known for his clutch play and late-game heroics. He wasn't just surviving the NFL, he was slowly starting to take over. Prime years. John Elway in the mid to late 1980s wasn't just a quarterback, he was the quarterback. Of a time defined by pocket passers, Elway did things that left so-called experts in the dust, scrambling on third and forever, launching 60-yard bombs off his back foot, or even leading his team to victories that should have been impossible. It wasn't just hardwire for this guy, he had magic. From 1986 to 1989, Elway guided the Denver Broncos to 3 Super Bowl finals in 4 seasons. Not that it was pretty, they were blown out each time. But to do all that with largely mediocre rosters is a testament to Elway's will. They went as far as Elway could carry them, became a saying with the fans. In truth, he carried them. 1987 was certainly his finest early season. He threw more than 3,000 yards and added 304 on the ground while carrying Denver to an AFC best 10-4 record, all while constantly evading pressure and pulling wins out of thin air. He was awarded NFL MVP that year and sealed his reputation as the most lethal of dual-threat signal callers in the league. And then, of course, there were the comebacks. In his career, Elway has tallied 35 fourth-quarter comebacks and 46 game-winning drives. Plus, he earned the moniker Captain Comeback. And the most famous is the drive, where the 1986 AFC Championship match would go down in history as one of the most iconic football moments. Consistently very solid statistically, often tossing for more than 3,000 yards in a season at a time when the league was run heavy. But it wasn't always about numbers. It was the moment when the game was on the line, and now you needed a miracle. Elway was at his best. He had the arm strength of a pitcher, the instinct of a scrambler, and the heart of a leader. And while the Super Bowl wins had yet to come, Elway was already being put in the conversation as one of the game's greats. But his story was far from over. Super Bowl runs and legacy. For a good part of his career, John Elway bore the Super Bowl in his heart in 3 big games in the late 80s. All were lost in devastating fashion. So-called experts branded him overrated. Some even said he couldn't win the big one. He still had a bit more story to write. In the late 90s, Elway was more than 38 and no longer a gunslinging improviser like in his youth. His arm was strong, but now relied more on experience and leadership supported by a new offensive star, Hall of Fame running back Terrell Davis. Finally, the Broncos had put a great team around him. Then came the redemption tour. The 1997 season once again saw Elway leading Denver to the Super Bowl against the defending champions, Green Bay Packers. Another loss was expected, but Elway would have none of it. With Davis running wild and Elway delivering clutch throws, the Broncos shocked the world with a 31-24 victory. It was little Elway's first ring and the moment that erased a decade of doubt. A year later, he did it again. At age 38, Elway led the Broncos into a resounding 34-19 victory against the Atlanta Falcons in Super Bowl 34. He threw for over 300 yards, rushed for a touchdown, and was named the Super Bowl MVP. A fitting end to an epic career. Back-to-back titles, a storybook ending, and a mic drop retirement. Elway retired in 1999 with over 51,000 passing yards, 300 touchdowns, 5 Super Bowl appearances, and 2 championships. But more than just stats, what made Elway special was how he willed his teams, how he refused to quit, how he made impossibly great plays look routine, and how he finally silenced every doubter with those 2 rings. From a guy who couldn't win to a guy who wouldn't quit, and that legacy worth its weight in gold. How he stacks up all time. Of more than 51,000 passing yards in the air, more than 300 touchdowns passed, going to 5 Super Bowls and winning 2 of them, John Elway was one of the greatest quarterbacks of all time. While Elway's statistics might not measure up to Marino's or Brady's, Elway's greatness is found in his influence. He took teams of average talent deep into the playoffs, thrived in an era considered tougher, and helped reshape the idea of the dual-threat quarterback. Clutch performances, unmatched in toughness, and back-to-back titles to end his career have secured that spot for him in the pantheon of all-time greats. Not just the top 10, but an icon who changed the way the position is played and viewed. There is no doubt about John Elway's legacy. From his early struggles to his successes in his later years, he taught the world about never giving up. 2 Super Bowl titles, innumerable clutch moments, and a career that refined the quarterback position. Elway is more than a Hall of Famer. He is a legend. It doesn't matter if you're a Broncos fan or just a lover of great football. His story is one of resilience, talent, and heart. And that is why John Elway's greatness is still being talked about with awe and respect decades later.